Like basketball in video, okay? Anime is a major part of Filipino culture. Wherever you go in the Philippines, you're sure to come across shops selling anime merchandise, stalls with pirated copies of anime series and movies, and on some occasions, anime conventions. This is how popular anime is in the country. Many Filipino kids who grew up without cable tend to be more familiar with characters from anime than those from Western cartoons and movies. Sorry, Mr. Bogus. But in order to understand exactly why anime is so popular among Filipinos, a recap of its history is needed. So set aside those 50+ modules you haven't yet finished and join us as we trace the history of anime in the Philippines. The 1970s. The era of bell-bottom pants, Crispa versus Toyota, socially conscious folk singers, and Nutriban. Of course, it was also a period of social unrest and increasing activism. However, while many baby boomers were protesting against the government of President Ferdinand Marcos, kids of Generation X could only stay home and play with their Jolen or take an afternoon nap while listening to VST and Company. But for those who didn't like hearing songs by middle-aged men with a preference for toilet humor, watching cartoons was another way to waste time. Take note that even in those pre-cable days, cartoons weren't exactly a rarity on television, though local TV stations of that time preferred to air variety shows and foreign programs catered towards older audiences. Attempts were made to appeal to the younger demographic as well. Nearly all channels had a lineup of cartoons, some of which included the Marvel superheroes, Wacky Races, Heckle and Jekyll, The Three Stooges, Moby Dick and Mighty Miter, Shazam, and Wait Till Your Father Gets Home. It's a known if Filipino kids got the humor of that last one.
Which job to take is a serious decision.
And it would be nice if you reached it before you were ready for Social Security.
These cartoons may not have been as well animated as cartoons today, yet many of them were loved by nearly every kid growing up under martial law due to their adventurous and fast-paced storylines as well as their unique characters. Essentially, they presented a world that was a stark contrast to Philippine society, which back then was far more conservative and dogmatic. And even though many parents preferred their kids to go outside and torture spiders with other kids, cartoons were so popular that it prompted television networks to come up with ways of further appealing to their young audience. At the time that Western cartoons became popular in the Philippines, anime had already spread to different parts of the world. Anime is a term used to describe all forms of animation made in Japan. It is distinct from most Western animations for its highly detailed and visually striking artwork, as well as its often complex storylines. The origins of anime are said to have begun at the beginning of the 20th century. However, some historians suggest that anime as we know it today did not flourish until the early 1960s when Tetsuan Atomu, more popularly known as Astro Boy, made his debut on television. Up until then, most Japanese animations emulated movies from the US and China. Astro Boy broke that trend in that it made use of a limited style of animation and gave more focus to the plot instead of visuals. As a result, it gained massive popularity in its home country and started a wave of Japanese animations being exported globally. By the 1970s, there were numerous anime series in the United States which aired in syndication. Likewise, anime was very widespread in many parts of continental Europe. Hence, it's no surprise that towards the end of the decade, a video production house called Questor International started buying anime programs for Philippine networks to air. Once anime premiered on Philippine television, many martial law babies and their older siblings were taken by storm. The first group of anime that aired on Philippine TV was mostly composed of series from the super robot genre. In fact, there was a steady lineup of robot anime that kids could watch every week. This included Daimos, Striker Force, Mechanda Robot, Mazinger Z, Jig the Steel Robot, Vanguard Ace, UFO Grandizer, and the highly beloved Voltes 5. These shows had similar plots, but it was Voltes 5 which captured the hearts of children the most. This wasn't just because of the epic battle scenes between the protagonists and the forces of the Buzanian Empire or the catchy theme song.
Face of foes are what they fear. With swords so
it was also because the series tackled themes like teamwork, equality, selfless sacrifice, and family. So popular was Voltes 5 that kids frequently chanted its most iconic line.
So let's bolt in!
Not only that, all sorts of Voltes 5 merchandise were sold across the country, such as Voltes 5 drinking glasses, Voltes 5 masks, Voltes 5 bookmarks, Voltes 5 playing cards, Voltes 5 vinyl records, and yes, Voltes 5 towels. Another factor which distinguished Voltes 5 and other anime that aired in the Philippines was their dubbing. In those days, it was commonplace for subtitles to not be translated. Kids were in fact compelled to watch some of their favorite anime without knowing the meaning of certain words that were displayed on their TV screens. Fortunately, the characters' voices were dubbed to provide context, and though the results weren't perfect, they actually sounded quite decent for that period. Unlike today, dubbing at that time was done not in Tagalog but in English. Many of the voices were also provided by professional film actors rather than trained voice actors. Despite this, they managed to maintain the series' dramatic impact and make each episode highly riveting to watch.
Richard!
Doctor, what is the meaning of this? This is torture! Do you hear? This is torture! Torture!
Richard, calm yourself.
Edward, was this your idea?
Yes.
There's no doubt that the spread of robot anime was pure bliss for young Filipinos in the late 70s. But if these kids felt they were merely watching action-packed entertainment, their parents thought otherwise. Many of them did not share their children's fascination with these programs and were in fact abhorred by their mature themes and graphic sequences. It also didn't help that they were mostly aired during school days. Things came to a head on August 27, 1979 when Apo McCoy ordered all robot anime series off the air, citing their warlike nature and their potential to encourage violent behavior in children. To be fair, you wouldn't want a gang of kids to start a coup d'etat, would you? The yanking of the dozen or so robot anime from the airways broke the hearts of many Filipino kids, most especially avid fans of Voltes 5. By that stage, the series still had 14 episodes left to air. Not only were these kids unable to watch the conclusion of their favorite anime, but the thrill and excitement which it provided had been extinguished as well. Although not all forms of anime were banned from airing on TV, with the exit of the Super Robots lineup came the debut of a softer and more wholesome group of anime. Among them were Candy Candy, Run Run the Flower Angel, Heidi, Paul in Fantasyland, Honeylin the Balloon Girl, Nobody's Child, and Orc the Prehistoric Boy. Although these programs weren't as dramatic as robot anime, they had very moving and heartwarming storylines. For instance, Heidi centered on the adventures of an orphan forced to live with her ill-tempered grandfather. Honeylin the Balloon Girl, meanwhile, was about a young girl who is blown away by a storm and tries to find her way back home. On the other hand, Orc the Prehistoric Boy focused on a teenager intent on defeating the beast that killed his adoptive mother. Despite their compelling narratives, the new anime lineup failed to grip viewers the same way robot anime did. Not long after, they were also taken off the air and replaced by locally produced shows, thus marking the end of the first anime boom in the Philippines. For a brief period, there were hardly any anime which aired on television. Youth-oriented blocks were once again filled with Western cartoons. In spite of this, a flicker of interest in anime remained. After the EDSA 86 revolution, many broadcasting stations that were taken over by the preceding government were returned to their original owners. Soon after, there was a public clamor for them to bring back the robot anime which had been taken off the air some years before. Voltes 5 and Daimos were among those that made a return on PTV Channel 4. But while 5 newly dubbed episodes of Daimos were released, the network only managed to broadcast episodes of Voltes 5 that had been aired before Marcos banned the entire series. A few months later, both series re-aired on ABS-CBN Channel 2 at the 6 p.m. time slot alongside Mekanda Robot and a new series called Blazerion. The return of robot anime on TV was welcomed by a new generation of viewers. But more than that, it paved the way for many other types of anime to air as well. As the 1990s dawned, the number of anime programs obtained by local TV stations increased significantly, and they also started to air on a more frequent basis. Moreover, many of them were now dubbed in Tagalog.
Wag mo kaming takasan! Saan ka pupunta? Tumigil na kayo! Bukas, mangangaso tayo! Magsipaganda na kayo!
On most days of the week, kids got the chance to watch tearjerkers like the Von Trapp Family Singers, A Dog of Flanders, Sarah ang Munting Prinsesa, and Sedi ang Munting Prinsipe. The latter two were so popular that they even spawned their own live-action films. For those who preferred more light-hearted anime, there was Judy Abbott, ang Mahiwagang Kwintas, Time Quest, and Sailor Moon. Channel 7 even aired Christian-themed anime on Sundays to better spread the teachings of God to Filipino kids, though whether or not this worked is probably up for debate. Another milestone for anime in 1990s Philippines was the airing of many cult status series which attracted a lot of teenage and adult viewers. Who could forget Slam Dunk, which was a natural hit due to its focus on a group of basketball-playing high school kids, or Ranma 1/2 with its nonsensical humor and complicated love triangles. We should also mention Neon Genesis Evangelion. The less said, the better. Among the many cult status anime that became a big sensation was Ghost Fighter. This series was extremely popular for its lengthy but highly dramatic dark tournament arc, as well as its many memorable fight scenes. Furthermore, it was unique in that a great number of its antagonists were people who many viewers could actually sympathize with and not just one-dimensional cliches. Oh, and romance. Don't forget romance. The 90s was clearly the period which marked the steady rise of anime in the Philippines. By the turn of the millennium, a vast amount of anime series from different genres had aired on local television. In spite of its massive popularity, however, there were flaws in the way anime was broadcasted. Among them was the manner by which Tagalog dubbing was done for some series. Due to most dubbing scripts being written by the dubbers themselves rather than professional translators, many characters spoke either extremely deep Tagalog.
Huwag ka na magpaliwanag. Inumit mo man o hindi ang singsing na yon, kailangan mapasa akin ito bago magtakip silim.
Or very awkward Taglish.
Kung magkamit ng metamorphosis magic ang estudyante mo, how impressive naman!
In other cases, it was the voices themselves that were problematic, with some not even matching the character's gender.
Kung ganon, buksan niyo na! Kung may pula sa loob, kasali kayo sa unang bahagi. Sige, tingnan niyo na ang inyong mga binunot.
A more bothersome trend among anime was censorship. Although the days of banning anime programs altogether were long gone, networks still altered various scenes or prevented them from airing entirely. These were done to conform with broadcasting regulations as well as to make some series more child-friendly. The result, however, was that some anime releases had so many cuts that viewers faced difficulty in following their plot. But if censorship and dubbing of anime were bothersome, there was another issue that was even more inconvenient, namely, the sudden discontinuation of many anime series, not by the government this time around, but by the networks themselves. This practice was done frequently no matter how popular a specific series was, and often without any clear explanation. Many viewers were not pleased when they saw their favorite anime series suddenly replaced by another program the day after, especially when it was at a pivotal point in its storyline. Notwithstanding difficulties in how it was aired, anime continued to maintain its popularity among Filipinos, and its appeal was no longer just evident through television ratings. Towards the end of the 90s, a number of anime appreciation groups began to form, and anime stores that were previously unknown started to open in large shopping malls. The peak of anime's popularity came in the year 2000 with the holding of the first major anime convention in the country, aptly named as Anime Explosion. This event was held for 3 days in SM Mega Mall and featured games, drawing contests, and talks by numerous Japanese anime directors as well as the creator of Fushigi Yugi herself, Yu Watase. It also marked the first time that cosplay became an official activity in any major public event. Anime Explosion was a big success and drew more than 10,000 attendees. Thereafter, Anime communities started to flourish and anime conventions became regular events. Anime-inspired publications began to circulate as well, many of them adapting the manga style of drawing. In numerous video rental shops, buyers could find a separate category for anime containing well-known titles available for rent. Well-established music stores even sold anime soundtracks, while many bands and universities started to cover anime theme songs. But most of all, an entire cosplay subculture was born and continues to thrive to this day. Anime further expanded its reach among Filipinos with the debut of all-day anime channels, namely Animax and Hero TV. Animax first became available through selected cable service providers in January 2004 and was known for being the only channel in the country to air anime programs in both English and Japanese dubs and with subtitles. Hero TV, on the other hand, launched in late 2005 and had more mass appeal due to airing its lineup of anime exclusively in Tagalog. Moreover, it was notable for broadcasting many series not previously shown on local channels such as Yaketate Japan, Cromartie High School, Cyber Formula GPX, Otogizoshi, Beck, Zoid's Genesis, Boku no Gaita, Mirmo Depon, and other interesting anime. It's clear that the growth of anime in the Philippines at the beginning of the new millennium was revolutionary. In fact, it significantly changed the landscape of Filipino pop culture. But as with all crazes, anime fever in the country would eventually come to an end. As the mid-2000s came around, local channels started replacing their lineup of anime with more popular Korean and Taiwanese dramas. Anime interest groups also began to disband while some anime-inspired publications went on hiatus. The decline of anime fever could be attributed to many reasons. For one, TV networks were more invested in acquiring foreign dramas as they had broader appeal compared to anime, which was generally marketed towards children. Additionally, there was a saturation of the market due to most networks constantly re-airing past anime series. Another factor was the rise of low-cost internet, which encouraged piracy and allowed most people to watch anime without having to wait for their television premiere. But there's another explanation for the decline of anime fever. One that is probably the most basic, and it holds that anime had not lost popularity entirely, but instead became so mainstream that it evolved into a normal part of Filipino discourse. Not at all a negative development when you think about it. By the 2010s, many Filipinos continued to watch anime, though less prevalently on television where its dominance had long since dissipated. Most TV networks either broadcasted an extremely limited number of anime programs or didn't air any at all. Plus, in the iPhone age, or more locally the Samsung Android age, it was much more common for young people to view the latest anime releases on their gadgets than on their TV screens anyway. Also, with the increasing number of households getting connected to the internet, torrenting anime became the norm. In early 2016, one particular development significantly altered the way Filipinos watched anime, and that was the introduction of Netflix in the country. With Netflix, viewers could now watch a wide array of anime releases instantly and at any time they wished. Besides that, they no longer had to worry about inconsistent dubbing and pivotal scenes being cut or censored. Probably the biggest advantage of Netflix for Filipinos was the fact that they could now finish their favorite anime seamlessly and without them being abruptly discontinued, a stark contrast to what anime fans had to endure decades before. So far, nothing has been able to compete with Netflix when it comes to providing a steady lineup of anime. Hero TV itself, once the go-to channel for many local anime fans, shut down in 2018 after experiencing a steep decline in viewership. In hindsight, Netflix had done what no TV network ever could, and that was to universalize anime in a country which had never really stopped falling in love with it, even in the most tumultuous of times. So all in all, why do Filipinos continue to patronize anime? Some think it's because of their collective love for melodramatic and extended storylines. Meanwhile, others cite anime's tendency to focus on underdogs managing to stay optimistic in spite of life struggles, as well as characters trying their best to be courageous no matter the odds. There's also the more economic explanation, which states that because the Philippines lacks a well-developed animation industry of its own, networks are left with little choice but to acquire anime programs and promote them in various ways to attract young viewers. especially since they're more affordable than Western cartoons. Whatever the reason for its continuing popularity, it's clear that anime has been a big source of joy and inspiration to many Filipinos over the years. Today, its creative effect on us is readily apparent, and as it continues to develop in the most amazing ways, time can only tell what animated series we ourselves will release in the upcoming future. Right, Ipo?
Excited na ako! Hindi ko maramdaman ang pagod ko!
Subscribe and hit the notification bell for more Pinoy documentaries.